Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way next, Off 90. The sights, smells, and sounds of Kolacky Days. An artist whose oil and pastel paintings offer a sublime view of nature, the tenacity of a small record shop, and we were adrift on the waves of a sonic sea with Drift. All coming up next, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this trip, Off 90. You might have tasted the traditional Czechoslovakian pastry, the Thekolache. At least that's how we pronounce it in Austin, home to KSMQ. But people in Montgomery, Minnesota might know best. There, the fruit-filled delicacy is called the Kolache, and Montgomery is the Kolache capital of the world. Each summer, they put on a festival called, no surprise here, Kolacky Days.
My first memories of my grandmother in her kitchen using a wood-fired oven to make kolaches in July. Kolacky Days started in 1929. It was a group from the community club that decided they wanted to have a joyous festival for the public. And initially it was going to be called Industrial Days. Pete Keown, who happened to be the editor for The Messenger, didn't like that term. He thought it sounded too industrial. He just declared it to be Kolacky Days. He said that the kolache, which he called a Bohemian delicacy, he said, if we get people to try this Bohemian delicacy, our kolache, they surely will come back next year for another event. So he saw it as a marketing ploy. In 1929, the first year, they drew 6,000 people. In 1933, we drew 30,000.
Today we're making 2 batches of kolaches, which is about 120 dozen. Well, Montgomery is known as a Czech territory. And back in the 1800s, the people came to this area to start a new life. Since they came, so did their traditions, and one of their traditions was the kolache. A kolache is basically a fruit-filled bun. It's a sweet dough we usually use 5 different types of fillings in it. The fruit filling is most common, especially in our area, because that's what the Czechoslovakians grew. That's what they had at hand that they could use for fillings, with the prune, poppy seed, and apricot being the more traditional flavors.
I have apricot, poppy seed, and prune left.
I want prune. Do you have apple?
No.
I'll have the apricot then.
Okay. Yeah.
3, 2, 1, pull! Okay, let him hear it. Go, 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 go! Keep going all the way past the yellow. The tractor has to get to the yellow. Keep going.
The tractor pull has become kind of legendary. It started about 10 years ago.
3, 2, 1, pull! Come on, help out the big team third. Go, go, go. Keep going all the way past the yellow.
It's become a focal point on Saturday afternoon. The crowd really filters in here to see this.
Help him out. Pull. Come over the side a little bit. Go, 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 go.
These are the Krochak boys. They're Charlie, Marty, Bob, and John. And they're all brothers. And they raised them nice and big. And they win this every year.
3, 2, 1, pull! Let him go all the way to the end.
There's a bit of stubbornness a lot of competitiveness, and I have to admit there could be some genetics involved. But it might not be from me. My wife might give more genetics to it than I.
And that's my son on the tractor.
There's a tremendous connectedness to the past, and that sense comes back every year in July. You can just feel it, that sense of we have a commitment to the community and to have this festival.
Oh, it's going.
When you get downtown Montgomery, what strikes me about it is the number of children there. Massive throngs of people, and I stand back and I look at the main street and I realize that the main street as you look at it today is exactly the same buildings as in 1906. When you step into Main Street, Montgomery, you're stepping back into 1906. When I was a young child, probably 3-4 years old, I was at my grandmother's a lot. And baking was always very important. For one thing, baking had to go a long way. It was the way you fed a group of 10 kids. You know, you could add fillings, but the bread was the important thing. You had to bake year round. It didn't matter when it was, if it was July or January. Extremely hot, but we were anticipating the bread and the Thekolaches that were going to come.
I know, everybody wants them. They're popular.
Frederick Somers is a painter who lives outside of Northfield, Minnesota. He's fortunate to also live not far from Nerstrand Big Woods State Park, a place he calls a little bit of heaven. Fred spent 2 years in all seasons exploring and painting the park's creek and its waterfalls. Join us as we go on a hike with Fred and talk to him about his art.
This is a tributary, spring-fed tributary of Prairie Creek that runs through the Nerstrand Big Woods State Park. And this is the valley I've been painting for 2 years. My name is Fred Somers, and I'm a painter. This place, the Nerstrand Woods, is one of the most profound places where we're the terminal moraine for the glacier that came here. And all the limestone that's here in the woods is from an ancient ocean floor. And I can show you one of the fossils over here. Here is one, and this is one that comes out this way. See the growth rings of this cephalopod. My paintings were disemboweled bodies and dead people when I came here to Northfield. And I was a radical, in-your-face, avant-garde artist. And I had no room for beauty in my work. And I walked away from this radical things that I was doing, and I started to pursue what is my new vision as an artist. And I think beauty is one of the most profound things of life. That's what I think now. I come in here in the springtime, and these ledges right here of the ocean floor coming out, and walk along these stone ledges, and wildflowers are blooming all over these like beautiful hanging gardens. You know, this 20 years or so since I designed the park sticker design, it's a very special place and has a lot of meaning for me. I go to the streams and tributaries of the Prairie Creek like a farmer searches his fields to see what his crops are like. I do it all times of the day and night and all seasons. I go out and look at it to paint it. When I'm in the woods sometimes, everything is moving and flowing. A camera will stop and show you one little fraction of a second, but I don't experience that as a painter. I experience motion and movement. The traditional painting, landscape painting, has a horizon line. It's at eye level, but many of my paintings go like this. And when I look there, I see heaven. And I look in the water below me. So right down there, you can see the blue in the water. I love being in a studio because the studio part is it's a place where I contemplate and I pursue what if dreams that are on the peripheral of things. Here's something that's more on the conceptual. The big mural behind me has a Fibonacci spiral. The Fibonacci sequence of numbers goes 3, 5, 8. So the top left panel is 3 foot, the top right panel is 5, and the bottom one is 8. So that's a Fibonacci numerical sequence. The top left one is where the idea comes from, with the leaf and the top of a waterfall. And this is the reality of where I walk to find those waterfalls. And the upper portion, the right side, is the concept of the wild, beautiful movement. This has been a really special place, and I'm thankful I had the opportunity to show people this beautiful place in Minnesota that I call a little piece of God's gift this side of heaven.
Solsta Records is a brick-and-mortar retailer of new and vintage vinyl records that husband and wife team Hannah and Phil Borison opened in 2016. Located in Minneapolis' historic Longfellow neighborhood, Solsta Records connects both casual and experienced music and vinyl aficionados with new and intriguing sonic experiences.
I like those slippers too.
The first reason I put it together was for convenience for us to go out to events, and now that you see a big blue billboard driving down the road.
And it's a selfie spot now.
Yeah, it really is. Like, you see a lot of people kind of, you know, with their cameras out taking pictures in front of it. So yeah, it definitely gets people to look our way. Hi, I'm Phil Borison. I'm the co-owner of Solsta Records in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And I'm Hannah Borison, the other co-owner of Solsta Records.
The original intention of the bus was to make it really easy for us to get out to events, just like the one we're at right now. We gutted it and put all the records inside, and we bring them to about 2 or 3 events a month. We wanted to bring this to the people. We know that there's more people out there than just come to our store. And
well, we're very community driven, so we are always involving our community, doing community events. So we figured instead of having everybody come to us, it's easier to go to your community.
I still think that we are the best kept secret in the Twin Cities right now. We continue to get new people in and I'm like, how did you find about us? I don't know, I was driving by and I saw you.
What isn't there to like about records? I mean, it's great because it's a physical medium that you can hold in your hand.
They like the crackles. They think it's warmer sounding.
Yeah, they're all over the place with what they feel. So it goes everywhere from it just sounds better, is something I hear all the time, to they like the interaction with it. There are some days where people will come in and just hang out and talk to me. Those are fun days that you just get to hang out and talk about music. But yeah, a lot of days it's basically a lot of busy work. That's
It's not glamorous.
Record stores, it seems like a great idea, but it's really not sexy. With most jobs, you show up, you get to the end of the day, and you're done, and you get to do whatever you want to do. Whereas this is, I live it. Like, people ask me how many hours do I work, and
you're not keeping track anymore.
I can't, because it's.
You live and breathe it.
It's 7 days a week.
You're doing something, you're thinking about something, you're thinking about the next step. I mean,
think that's the most important part about this, is that I love to come here every day.
We already had some like money set aside to start a small business of some sort. We have always wanted to do something like that, so it was just the timing and the opportunity really just all aligned for us.
And we wanted to make sure that we really made this something where if you don't know anything about records, you feel really good about being here and knowing that we're going to help you find what you want.
We're kind of doing our real version of Spotify, I guess. We're making the suggestions for someone. And the website.
The website, yeah. So we have a website where you can literally purchase anything in the store.
We have this huge global presence now. I think we've sent some things off to Canada and France and Germany. I think Japan was one of our recent ones. And it really comes down to is that someone's just looking on the internet for that one record that they just can't find, and we just pop up in their search field. And we're starting to see that trend even more and more.
There's just some people, they could care less about the internet experience, and that's awesome. Like,
we're always like, oh, well, we have plenty for you to dig through. I love hearing when people are like, I love this shop, and it's usually just because they just feel very connected, and it's just more like home. I think our biggest concern is to make sure that people are enjoying vinyl as much as we enjoy vinyl.
The Blue Earth County Poor Farm has gone through many changes and many owners since it was built in the late 19th century. In the late 20th century, it became the Poor Farm Studios, an art studio, workshop, and theater. The Poor Farm Studios have also hosted musical events. That's where we experience the ambient music of Drift. We've reached the end of this tour off 90. Thanks for riding along. See you next time. But before we go, we paid a visit to the farmers market in Rochester.
I'm David Routman. We're from Rochester, Minnesota, and we're here at the Rochester Saturday Downtown Farmers Market. And what's your name?
Edith.
Can you spell it?
E-D-I-T-H.
We try and come weekly if we can. Every Saturday. It's part of our routine. Try and come here, listen to music, get some produce. We like it a lot.
I see you have some fall-related things.
Yep, got some dolls, some decorative corn, peppers, potatoes, mushrooms, bread, all kinds of good stuff.
My name is Tim Thorson, and we're a vendor here at the Rochester Downtown Farmers Market. We've been selling here at the market for 23 years. In the summer, it changes, like you got your early season stuff, your spinach, your greens, lettuce, radish. Comes all the way through the end of the fall where you got your root crops, your squash, pumpkins. It's always something different every week.
I bought carrots. It's a nice carrot, and it looks good, and they do a good job here at this stand, and we're just pleased to have anything locally grown. And so this is the time of year for all the root vegetables, so we're pleased. I love the fact that you can still see the dirt, and you know that it hasn't been very long since they've been picked, and that means they're fresh and local, so that's great. We love it.
I plant my tomatoes late on purpose, so they'll have them late. Everybody else's are running out, and I still have them.
And how long have you been a vendor here?
I've been here 8 years, I think. I've been doing farmer markets about 11 years.
What do you like about it?
People, of course. It's the best job ever. It really is.
With a boo-boo here and a boo-boo there. Here, move there. Thank you, honey. Oh,
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.